I think by the late 90s, we all came to know Johnny Bravo, starring that guy who only had one goal in life, to win over a woman. But nowadays, some of his jokes are pretty questionable if you see them through a modern lens.
Is there anything else I can do?
How about you and me playing doctor?
And you are?
Johnny Bravo, MD. Want to take my pulse?
Please.
Troubled Teen Hotline. Your boyfriend left you? So, what are you wearing? What?
But how did a show with such adult humor manage to become such an important icon on TV history? To answer this question, we need to go back to where it all began. In the 90s, Cartoon Network was actively searching for its identity as a channel. In this context, What a Cartoon was born a platform dedicated to showcasing animated shorts from new talent. It was a breeding ground for huge hits like Dexter's Laboratory, The Powerpuff Girls, and Cow and Chicken. But among this collection of shorts, there was one character who would also get his big break, Johnny Bravo. Behind this iconic character was Van Partible, a young animator with quirky ideas, an exaggerated and clumsy Elvis Presley impersonator who tried to win over everyone who crossed his path. His pitch captivated the legendary duo William Hanna and Joseph Barbera, who was so impressed that they gave it the green light, allowing it to become an animated short for What a Cartoon series. While the initial idea was well received, Van Partible decided to take the opportunity to refine his concept. That's how Johnny Bravo was born, a character who retained Elvis Presley's iconic vocal style, but went through notable physical redesigns. From being a generic Elvis impersonator, Johnny transformed into a muscular narcissist with big blonde hair, sunglasses, and an egocentric yet good-hearted personality. The pilot episode, titled Johnny Bravo, featured the character attempting to impress a zookeeper by catching an escaped gorilla. As expected, everything went horribly wrong for him. This initial episode established the show's comedic tone, blending slapstick with absurd situations and featuring a protagonist who, despite being a bit dim-witted, was undeniably charismatic. Although the pilot episode of Johnny Bravo received a lukewarm response, Cartoon Network recognized the potential in its unique concept. They gave Van Paterville the chance to produce 2 new episodes to explore different approaches. The first was Jungle Boy, a short where Johnny didn't appear and failed to make an impact. However, in the next episode, Van decided to return to Johnny with a fresh approach. This was the episode where Johnny faces off against a group of Amazon women who end up beating him up for his narcissistic attitude.
Oh, great Athena, we give you this virgin as a sacrifice to your beauty and womanhood.
Did she say virgin?
This episode was much better received by both audiences and executives, who recognized Johnny's potential as a lead character. Thanks to this initial success, Johnny Bravo was given the green light to be developed into a full series. Van Paterville chose to develop the show in a direction that went against the conventions of that time. Johnny Bravo's essence was deeply rooted in the style and humor of 70s animated series, and that connection was entirely intentional. Creators were nostalgic adults who wanted to honor Hanna-Barbera, taking inspiration from its classic cartoons. This inspiration was reflected not only in the show's tone, but also in its visual and narrative style. Johnny Bravo's animation stood out for its speed and dynamic style. The color palette, dominated by pastel shades and soft, rounded character designs, reinforced this almost contradictory feeling. While Johnny tried to be the tough, macho ladies' man, the world around him had an almost childlike, cartoonish quality, adding a comical and surreal touch to his adventures. Plus, Johnny Bravo wasn't afraid to break the rules of cartoon reality. Talking animals were a common occurrence, and the episodes were packed with special appearances by iconic 70s figures like Adam West, Donny Osmond, and Farrah Fawcett, whom I'm sure no kid today would recognize. They even did a whole special episode where Johnny meets Scooby-Doo and the gang.
Don't worry, I don't bite.
Does she? Oh!
But the most striking aspect of the entire series was its extremely peculiar main character. Johnny portrayed himself as a male femme fatale, obsessed with seducing every woman who crossed his path. His narcissism and over-the-top attitude were modeled after the stereotypical ladies' man that was popular during that era.
Say, you smell kind of pretty. Wanna smell me? She's in denial.
But the true purpose of the shows was to satirize that stereotype, highlighting his constant failures and the humorous consequences of his misguided confidence. Throughout all 4 seasons, women never showed any genuine interest in Johnny. When women did show interest, they were scammers looking to take advantage of him. This subverted the character's expected image as a successful ladies' man and turned his behavior into the main source of jokes.
How many times do I have to tell you I have a boyfriend?
Well, you look like the kind of girl that could use 2. Oh.
However, the show sparked controversy due to its edgy adult humor, particularly given that its target audience was children between the ages of 6 and 12, and that's interesting.
Oh, yeah. When a woman screams, I just feel the need to be there.
Some jokes and situations seem to be designed more for adults than for kids. For example, Johnny was shown reading magazines featuring women in bikinis and would occasionally express concern about what others might think of his sex life. But where did Johnny Bravo's adult humor come from? The answer may lie with one of the writers who worked on the series, Seth MacFarlane. Today, MacFarlane is widely known for his irreverent work on Family Guys. But before becoming a key figure in adult animation, he left his mark on Johnny Bravo. Van Partable, the show's creator, knew MacFarlane from their college days and considered him the only funny person in class. When he had the opportunity to develop Johnny Bravo, he didn't hesitate to bring his talented friend onto the team. MacFarlane's humor has always been aimed at a more mature audience, and his influence is clearly evident in Johnny Bravo's scripts, from risque jokes to cultural references that only adults could catch. MacFarlane brought a perspective that helped define the show's tone. But why did similar elements work so well in other shows like The Simpsons, while causing controversy in Johnny Bravo? The answer might lie in how the series was marketed to audiences. While The Simpsons made it clear from the start that they were a satire of the average American family, Johnny Bravo was marketed as a show about a winning ladies' man. And that was not correct. The marketing emphasized Johnny's confidence and physical appearance, portraying him as a successful ladies' man. Johnny wasn't a successful ladies' man, he was a lovable loser. His narcissism and stupidity made him incapable of achieving his goals, which led to all the comedic situations. The show's approach was never to celebrate him, but rather to expose how ridiculous his behavior was.
Hey, who's that handsome guy? Hello, 911 emergency? There's a handsome guy in my house. Oh, wait a second, cancel that. It's only me. Oh, you drive me wild.
Johnny's real antagonists were the women he tried to pursue relationships with, who were often portrayed as brilliant, independent, and far more intelligent than he could ever hope to be.
Hello, I'm Dr. Gwendolyn Morceau.
A lady doctor? Has science come that far?
Each episode served as a lesson for Johnny. Even though he almost never managed to learn from his mistakes, it was a masterclass in how not to treat women.
The amendment allowing women to vote. Until then, not a woman here could vote no matter what age. But the 19th Amendment struck down that restrictive rule.
Why'd they go and do that? I didn't think chicks liked to vote.
Yeah!
The perfect example of this is the episode The Sensitive Male, where a guy tries to teach Johnny the value of being sensitive. This episode directly mocks men like Johnny, showing how his shallow, limited views of women causes him to miss out on more meaningful relationships. Although Johnny Bravo initially captured audiences' attention with its unique humor and eccentric character in its early episodes, the show ultimately failed to meet Cartoon Network's expectations after its first season in 1997. With only 13 episodes in its debut season, the series struggled to gain consistent traction and shared a programming block with other major network hits like Dexter's Laboratory, The Powerpuff Girls, and Ed, Edd n Eddy. But Johnny Bravo was the only show that wasn't taking off, so Cartoon had no better idea than to fire Van and completely revamp Johnny's universe. In the first season, we got to see very different adventures of this narcissist from episode to episode. One day he was at the zoo, in another episode he was fighting a city villain, and he even helped solve a mystery with Scooby-Doo. The character didn't have a well-defined world, and that's what Cartoon wanted to fix, which is why it took them 2 years to revamp the show. First, they changed the story. The secondary characters were basically unknown, so they modified them and gave them much more prominence, especially Johnny's mother and Susie. the little neighbor girl who was created specifically to be the only person Johnny wasn't trying to hit on.
Hi, Johnny. This is little Susie from next door. Will you come to my birthday party today?
I am busy. Call me in 15 years when you're a co-ed.
Additionally, new characters were added like Carl the super nerd and Pops, the local restaurant owner. But the biggest and more important change was in the animation style. The pastel colors and rounded shapes were gradually abandoned as the design shifted toward sharper edges and more defined angular forms. Celebrity cameos and pop culture references were practically gone. There were no talking animals anymore, and of course, much of the adult humor and wit from Partable's team was lost. But John's personality and the supporting characters created great chemistry together, and that's where the show started becoming a TV classic. Unfortunately, the show's initial success proved to be unsustainable in the long run, and the plots began to increasingly revolve around conventional cartoon situations, gradually losing the unique and fresh touch that had made its first year stand out. While the supporting characters remained strong and entertaining, Johnny went through a personality crisis that affected both the character and the series as a whole. As we mentioned earlier, Johnny Bravo's essence was always about laughing at his constant failures. However, this approach started becoming a problem for the writers as they were running out of original ideas to explore the same concept of a narcissistic and clumsy man. As the series progressed, Johnny began experiencing what many would call the Homer Simpson effect, even though he was never exactly a bright guy to begin with. By the third season, Johnny had become a complete idiot. The character's inability to generate genuine laughter led the writers to push him further and further down the intellectual ladder. This created a disconnect between what fans had initially expected from Johnny and what they were actually getting, as the character's development took an unexpected turn. The show had lost both the freshness and impact of its early episodes, and Johnny, instead of being an endearing character, ended up as an empty stereotype. As Johnny stopped receiving the laughs he once did, the writers pushed him further and further down the intellectual ladder, making him even more clueless and socially unaware in an attempt to spark humor from his increasing lack of self-awareness. The character no longer worked within his own show, but outside of it, Johnny Bravo found a second life. Cartoon Network created a spin-off where Johnny became the host of an interactive show with a live audience, and surprisingly, it was a massive hit. That's why the creators decided to give the character another chance at reinvention, leading to the series going on hiatus as they began work on its fourth and final season, hoping to refresh its direction and appeal. That's why their first move was to rehire Van, who had been severely depressed and distant from animation. He gladly accepted the opportunity, even though he couldn't manage to bring his old work team back together to recreate the original magic of the series. While working on this new reboot, Van realized it would be too jarring to return to the first season's design, so he tried to subtly modify what had been done during his absence. However, the show returned to pastel colors and rounded shapes. Carl and Pop's roles were reduced, but remained present, and Susie got her original design back, giving the series a nostalgic touch while attempting to regain its earlier charm. But the changes to Johnny were more than welcome. He regained some IQ points, started interacting with celebrities again, and even brought back references to classic Hanna-Barbera shows. And while the risque humor became less obvious, there was actually more of it subtly woven into the episodes than in the previous two seasons. He even gained a deeper understanding of the women he tries to hit on in an episode where he's transformed into a woman by a gypsy curse. He experiences firsthand what guys like himself usually do to women, giving him a new perspective on his own behavior. After this episode, Johnny's attempts to pick up women were significantly reduced, allowing more space for generic adventures that focused on his character in different, often less focused scenarios. The fourth season of Johnny Bravo was an impressive offering, though not quite as off-the-wall as the first, managed to incorporate celebrities more effectively, and created a more solid foundation for the series. This season showed more depth, with episodes that explored Johnny's past and his relationship with women, allowing him to grow a little as a character. Despite Van Partable's sadness over losing his show, it was fitting that he was given the opportunity to provide a proper ending, allowing him to wrap up Johnny's story on his own terms. In 2004, Johnny Bravo came to an end with its fourth season, marking the series' final conclusion after years of cultural impact. The last we saw of the character was in a special set in India and produced by that country, where Johnny had become a cult figure, gaining unexpected popularity and resonating with a new audience. His image as a narcissistic and successful macho man made him the perfect stereotype for Bollywood cinema, which helped him maintain his popularity in that region. Johnny Bravo was a character who, despite being a stereotypical macho, narcissistic, and clumsy guy, managed to define an era with his irreverent humor and unique personality. Throughout the series, we learn to laugh at his constant failures and, above all, at the irony of a supposedly perfect man who, in reality, was anything but, making his misadventures all the more entertaining. While its adult humor and unfiltered nature might be controversial today, it's important to remember that the show was always meant to be a parody of those successful male stereotypes, not a role model. What made Johnny Bravo so iconic was his ability to make us think, all while delivering a steady stream of entertainment. Only those who don't understand the character's context today might try to cancel him, forgetting that the show's true intention was always to laugh at the character and demonstrate, through exaggeration, how not to treat women. Johnny Bravo, with all his absurd charm and larger-than-life personality, will forever remain an icon of 90s animation. His legacy continues to be cherished by those who truly understood the character. Now I want to ask you, which other animated series would you like to learn the history of? Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. We are Pure Cinema. See you next time.